Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Big Break Show, episode number 29. I'm here with my co-host,
29.
Mr. Jesse Vasquez.
I'm just changing it up this time, bro. I was supposed to say the number. You're supposed to be quiet.
Sorry,
and then
buddy.
I was supposed to say it.
My
but
bad.
That didn't happen. It's all right, though. I forgive you. But you know why? Because we had a good episode today. Our good friend Josh Baldovino, who is out of the Bay Area here in San Jose, California, talks about real estate meetups. He talks about real estate marketing. He talks about this dude has 12 properties already.
A year.
Roughly, a year?
He came from no background, right, Jesse, in real estate?
Zero.
Yeah, man. No background in real estate to 12 properties in 1 year. Nuts.
Crazy. And all through the power of relationships, understanding numbers, knowing where to put what, running numbers himself, really understanding what the logistics are between that, created his own Excel sheet, created his own sums. So, I mean, you have to run numbers in order to understand this market. And he is like one of those action takers that literally will learn something today and do it today. And I think that that's the recipe for success, right, Rafa?
Yeah, I think that anybody who's going to listen to this, I really hope you guys take notes or maybe listen to it, because if you're just starting off and you really want to know like small insights, tips and tricks from somebody who really came from absolutely no real estate background to 12 properties, I mean, he's blowing people out of the water. Like, he's outdone me when I first started by far, right? And even now, he's just a huge action taker. And we talk about that a little bit, but he gives a lot of insight of what he did to help him get to where he's at. And it's something that people are really going to need to pay attention to as they're starting off. Because anybody who's in this industry who's trying to get started, they think that they need to know everything prior to getting started. And that's not the case. And this dude tells you literally what he did step by step to be able to scale and grow. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode.
He even talks about saving money, like living with his parents for a while to save money, like those little steps that you have to take in order to get where you're going. Like, yeah, nobody wants to live with their parents, but sometimes you got to do that for a year to save cash. And then you deploy that into whatever projects you have going on.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Jesse, without further ado, here we go. Josh, what's up, man? So thank you so much for coming on today. I'm excited to have this conversation. I want to get into the weeds of what you're doing, what you got going on in terms of the marketing world, your podcast, your YouTube channel, and your wine company. Would you mind to get started off here, telling the viewers and the listeners a little bit about yourself, your background, who you are, where you came from, and I mean, get into the details. We want to know everything about you.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. Excited to be here. I, really enjoyed having you guys on my podcast. And so now that we've talked marketing, that's kind of who I am, in a nutshell. And so I'm a full-time marketer for a winery, not my winery, but I work full-time for J-Lore Vineyards and Wines. I place all the national print digital ads as well as the influencer marketing for them. And I jumped into real estate investing last year. So we closed on our first one in January 2021. It is today, May 2022. So almost a year and a half. We have about a dozen projects going on, a mix of bird properties, short-term rentals, flips, lots of different partnerships. And it's also kind of scaled on the marketing side in terms of real estate to starting a YouTube channel, podcast, all that good stuff. So a lot of everything.
Okay, wait a second. 12 projects going on, and you just started January 2021. What happened here? Well, we need to get into this because not everybody starts off with one and then there's 12 literally a year later. Like, what happened? What's going on? Talk about this.
Yeah, so I guess the true backstory is that I moved to Hawaii for grad school, worked in education for a few years, was actually in pursuing a marketing PhD program, dropped out of that. We had our first kid. We were both living in Hawaii, working for the state, making $40,000 a year, which is nothing, especially when you're living in Hawaii, which is super expensive to live in.
Which part of Hawaii?
I was living on Oahu, so we were living on Honolulu. And so we moved back to the Bay Area once we had our first son. And we got jobs. I got jobs doing ad sales. That was a sales background that I have. And I did that for about a year and a half. And my wife also found a sales job as well. And we were just starting our sales career. It takes time to build up revenue. And I said, hey, how can I catch up to these tech PMs making $200 a year faster? So I insert real estate. I had a buddy in Hawaii that I used to do CrossFit with. He ended up buying 44 doors in the first 2 years. I was like, dude, how did you scale? And he was talking about partnerships and deals that he was working with, and he was buying in Tennessee. He was buying fourplexes at a time. And I said, I want in. I want to learn how to do that. So we took 2 months at the end of 2020 to just dive in all the books, all the podcasts, everything that people say, right? Bigger pockets. And we started to put in offers. We started to buy in Columbus, Ohio. The first was a rent ready property. And then I thought, man, I can't put down 30K every single time because I'll run out of money after a few deals. And so I started looking at birds only. And after that, committing, doing podcasts, doing phone calls. And I guess, I don't know, switching back to the marketing play, if anyone who's listening who wants to scale faster, is put yourself out there more, because more people will come to you, more deals will come to you. People text me deals all the time now, but that's only because I talk about it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does, but it's also like I'm still confused with all this stuff because you know why? Real estate can be super intimidating for anybody getting into it. When you start listening to those podcasts and you start hearing like what's Bearded Brandy and these dudes on here talking about these multi-million-dollar deals, and you're just a small fish getting your first place in Columbus, Ohio for $100,000. Like that stuff can seem extremely foreign. So walk us through what your first deal was like. Maybe something happened with your mind, with there was a mind shift somewhere. So walk us through that first deal and then walk us through what happened. Cause I already know something happened with your mind where you shifted or you met somebody or something happened. So talk us through that.
Yeah. So the first deal, and I guess even before the first deal, was how can you even afford to pay for the first deal? So initially, we moved back to my parents' house, and it was supposed to be a temporary thing. And my dad sat me down a month later and said, hey, if you want to stay here for a little bit longer and save for a down payment for a house, you can do that. And so I said, all right, thanks, Dad. I appreciate it. 2 years later, we were still living there, and we saved almost $100,000, which is significant. Every single extra dollar we poured to this nest egg. And then I thought, man, even if I were to buy a house in San Jose, that's 1.5 million. One, do I want to put at that time 20% down? That's 300 grand. Two, do I want a mortgage payment that's 6 grand, 7 grand after property taxes? Like, that didn't seem worth it to live. And so then I pivoted and I thought, well, what if we took that nest egg and bought properties that could subsidize the mortgage payment eventually? And so that was kind of the first thought process behind it. In terms of that first deal, that first Columbus deal, we bought it for $120,000, put 20% down. It was a rent-ready property. It needed minor updates. Repairs, once we purchased it, was roughly about $5,000, and it rented for $1,350, which means that after our mortgage payment was $600 a month. So after saving for vacancy, CapEx and maintenance, we were cash flowing $400 a month. What made me feel comfortable was how many deals I analyzed before we even got to that position. I don't know. It was probably 100 deals we analyzed. There was probably at least 20 to 30 property managers, agents that we called. And so I got that context just from doing the volume. And I feel like a lot of people won't analyze enough, so they'll always be confused because they didn't actually put in the real work.
I love that.
Yeah. What did you use to analyze?
A variety of tools. So I actually purposely used more tools so that I could better understand it. So I didn't want to just be dependent on the Bigger Pockets tool on their website. Although if you're considering it, yes, pay $30 a month to get their calculators, especially if you're going to buy, a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 property, just buy the calculator for $30 a month. But I also used that. There's another app on the phone it's from Chandler David Smith, and it's just called Rental Calc. Super easy. That's how I'm actually able to underwrite any long-term deals in a minute now and give my agent an answer. And then after that, I took all of what the calculators were building and I built my own on Excel, because I knew that if I could build my own calculator, I actually knew and understood how to run the numbers.
So you have your own now?
I do use my own now. Or if I'm lazy and I don't want to open up the spreadsheet, then I'll use the app. So I still use the app on my phone at least once a week, just because it's on my phone. It's easily accessible.
I love it. So you said something that kind of caught my attention too, about the practice, the analyzing nonstop over and over until you got comfortable with it. That obviously played a big part in terms of you being comfortable making offers, right? So in order for you to get comfortable knowing what these numbers actually look like, even though you weren't putting the offers, or were you actually placing offers on the ones you were practicing on, or was it just practice?
It was practice at first, and then it started to be offers. So once we got a few in, and if something was decent enough, right, in terms of the cash on cash return, but at the time for me was $150 a door at an 11-12% cash on cash return, we sent the offer.
Got it.
There's probably at least 30 deals I analyzed before we even started to consider the first deal.
Okay. And now, are you currently still analyzing daily, or you just analyze when you're being serious about your offers?
Well, I mean, I guess the best part is that, part of me building my own was that I ended up building my own Zillow web scraper that analyzes the deals for me. So I now built a machine that actually has been an awesome content machine too for me, that I can take every zip code in any city that I want, input how much it could potentially rent for, and it live scrapes Zillow data. So it pulls the listing information, the purchase price, how many bedrooms, and then does an if-then statement in terms of how much it could rent for, and it auto-calculates the rent-to-price ratio. So I can know with a decent amount of variability how much a property could rent for as many listings as I want for as many zip codes as I assign.
Wow. How'd you come up with that?
I got tired of analyzing. I understood how to analyze, and I thought, man, there has to be a better way. And so there was listings on Zillow. It always refreshed on Redfin, whatever it is. You got the emails, but I didn't want to take, oh, this house looks interesting. Let me plug it into my phone. What's the rent to price ratio? I was like, there's got to be a way to do this. So I Googled for an hour how to web scrape so I can pull data from any website and put onto a spreadsheet. I then built this template that basically divides the purchase price by how much it could rent for, did some conditional formatting. I have now sold that a few times, helped other people build that spreadsheet when they were trying to flip cars, trying to find for sale by owner, couch flip. I don't know, people have used it for crazy things now. And it's also been, a really good lead source for me.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to get to, because you can, if you're doing this for property, you can probably apply it to a bunch of other things where you can make a quick buck on, right? Like you just said it, the cars and the couches and furniture more than anything. You can pull data. What came to mind is if you can use it to plug in for specific furniture, like for people who want to get started in short-term rentals at a really low cost, you can plug that in and it can pull anybody when they put up a for sale somewhere like on OfferUp, right? That's really cool because now everybody listening, everybody talking about this, right? Reach out to Josh. Maybe you guys can convince Josh here or sell you the scraper because, dude, it listen, if I'm looking for, I don't know, couches, credenzas, certain specific tables, you can plug this in and you're trying to build up furniture over time at a really low cost. You can put this in and it'll just literally tell you when they go up for sale without you having to sit there and stare at the phone all the time, right? Am I right?
Yeah, so it's not like the Zillow alert that says, "Hey, there's a new house in Columbus that's available. Check it out." This is every single house on page 1, at least of a specific criteria that you set. It'll pull that live listing, and so you can just keep refreshing the latest ones. I've also now modified it, and this is for a future release, but I've tried to find a way to where I can automate figuring out how much a house can flip for and what the max allowable offer is, and then also estimating rehab based on square footage so that I can see, okay, what's the light, medium, heavy rehab cost potential? How much could I make on a flip? So you can, I don't know, the possibilities are endless once you actually understand how the numbers work in terms of
Yeah.
analyzing.
That's awesome, dude. I didn't know you were doing that. That's badass. Yeah. Super cool. So let me ask you another question. Why Columbus, Ohio for your first property?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, if you throw a dart blindfolded in the Midwest, you'll find something that cash flows. That's that's just point number one. But in terms of Ohio, it's landlord friendly, very contrast to California. The price point was something that I was willing to, I wouldn't say risk, but at least have a little bit more comfort in knowing that I can afford a mistake. And as well as, you look at population growth, job, economic factors, and as well as just really, once it was reaching out to agents, I found an agent that I really liked and was helping me, actively helping me, not ghosting me. And so I leaned into wherever someone was friendly and really able to give me that important feedback on the deals that I was analyzing.
Got it. I love it. Okay.
Yeah, that's super important. Anytime you start looking at long distance investing, having a realtor is incredibly important. Somebody that's actually going to spend time listening to you. Because I've done that before in Memphis, Tennessee. This was like a long time ago. And I reached out to probably like 5 or 6 different people. I did what Bigger Pockets told me to do, is find the heavy hitter in that market and reach out to them. And those guys are too busy to even deal with somebody. Like they just They just don't. They're just not going to deal with you. So that didn't work for me. But I ended up finding somebody else that was like literally would walk the properties, call me on a FaceTime or on a WhatsApp, and they would literally walk me through the property with the phone on, and would say, I have contractors, I have this, but you got to be very careful. But yeah, I mean, it's super important to have a good realtor when you're doing long distance investing, and it's like probably one of the most important pieces.
That's funny. I need to find me one.
Well, let me know. I've actually, out of all those deals, I've never been to Columbus ever. I've never been to, and now that we're in different markets, I've never been to any of the houses and or markets that we've bought in ever. I mean, I could blame COVID, but just never have.
That's funny.
That's super common. That happens all the time. People will be like, I never walked it. Even with short-term rentals, I'd never been there before. I just got the designer, did everything. Like, dude, I don't even go to my units. Rafa probably freaking hardly ever goes into his units. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty common. Sounds probably weird to new investors. Are like, what? You don't even go to your own place? But it's pretty common. Once you dial the numbers in, you said that from the beginning. Like, if you really learn the numbers, like you can go in essence blind without actually seeing something, but actually really seeing it on paper in different ways, and on with contractor forms and things like that, how much the estimates are going to be. That's all you really need to see. What's around, how much places are renting for. Those are the most important things. What type of neighborhood you're in, if it's an A class, B class, C class, those are the most important parts of the entire thing. So anyway, go ahead, Rafa. I saw you had a question or statement or something.
No, you're right. I was just going. I'm still with this realtor thing. Like, I got the house in Milwaukee and I don't have a realtor, so I should probably find one. But I went through a wholesaler, so I got it at a really good rate. But I'm definitely trying to buy more out there. Anyway, yeah, no, you're right. I haven't been in any of my units. I mean, I have one literally 20 feet away, and I can't remember the last time I stepped in. And that's because you have it not just the realtor. You got to build the right team in the right places. Right, Josh? Like, are you doing any type of heavy rehab in any of your other locations, or are they all like on market properties ready to go?
No. So that was the first one, was the only one that I bought that was rent ready. Everything else has been full rehabs. And my flip under right now is I bought it down to the studs on the MLS, by the way. And so, yeah, it's been rip everything else out. I mean, this one that's down to the studs, there's literally no plumbing, no electric, no HVAC. So we're putting full systems in there.
Got it. Wow. Okay. And are they all in Columbus, Ohio, or are they different markets, each one?
So all of my long-term rentals are in Columbus, Ohio. The flips in Columbus, Ohio. And then the short-term rentals, we have the active one in Joshua Tree. And then the two that were basically at the cusp of launching in Branson, Missouri, and another one in Columbus.
Got it.
I just want to touch on this. So we talked about your first deal, 130K. You put $5,000 into it, cash flowed 400 after your expenses, CapEx, all that other good stuff that's in there. So when you first started, you probably thought, I just want to do one deal, see what this does, see how this works, right? And then see how things go. Did you and your wife do that on your own, or did you bring a partner in at that point? And that my follow-up question to the beginning of this whole thing was, what happened mentally when you were just like, oh shit, I can do 1 and then 2 and then 3? So kind of tell us what happened in that whole process right there.
Yeah, it was funny. So when we were first starting, I remember sitting down with her, and before we would do a lot of goal alignments, and we were thinking, okay, we're jumping into this. What if we could do 3 by the end of the year? And I remember just talking like, no, that was crazy. You can't do 3 in 1 year. Are you serious? We ended up having 11 doors by the end of it. But the mindset shift, there you go, was once you can do 1 and you can run the numbers and you have that paycheck in and it actually happens. I mean, it's the same when, I'm sure that you got your first Airbnb paycheck. You're like, oh shoot, you can make this much money. And then once you do that, it becomes, instead of crap, like what's limiting, but it's how can I remove all the limiters? And in my case, to scale faster, it was partners. Like, how many more partners can I take on? I need more money. Like, where can I get capital? So either private investing, so private lending for some of the projects, and or equity partnerships.
So yeah, that leads me into like, okay, so you got your first deal. Like, you're a noob, right? At your first deal. I'm not saying you're a noob now, but I'm saying you're a noob then. So how the hell do you get money? Like, how does somebody new listening to this today that's working on their first deal get that first thing done? And then how do you get money? So you're investing in places that you need about 30K to get into. So how do you come up with that extra money? Because initially you said you had about 100 grand living with your parents, right? That's what you were kind of at. So you used 30 of that. So how did you get more money? How did you fund the second deal and then fund the third? And how did that continue to happen?
Yeah, for us, well, one, it was by any means necessary. So we took on more work. I took on more marketing contract work on the nights, on the weekends. So I would do photo shoots and work video gigs for side clients. My wife actually started wholesaling for a company out in Ohio on the side, and she ended up closing 8 deals in her first 2 months as an acquisitions person. I was like,
Wow.
dude, you're crushing it. Um, she no longer does that. She works for sales at Adobe now, but she did a really good job. But also in terms of, how we can get more partnerships and more money, the best advice is to talk about it and to post about it often. Maybe so often to where you're the annoying real estate person, but you share the good, you share the bad, you share what you learned, and someone's going to ask you about it. And the moment that person says, "Hey, what the heck are you doing?" Or, "Man, that sounds crazy. How'd you get started?" You put them in a spreadsheet, in a CRM, on something. And when you have another deal in the pipeline, that's when you ping them and just say, "Hey, there's something that I'm working on. You want to take a look at it?" And you just start the conversation. You're not asking for the sale. You're really just saying, "Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm interested in. Would you be interested too?"
I talk about that all the time. It's becoming one of these things where you start, you don't go out fishing for it. You're kind of just setting the seeds, right? Throwing the seeds into the lawn so that eventually they grow and somebody catches on, right? Not all of them are going to catch, some of them are going to grow type of situation. But yeah, the more you talk about it, the more people hear it. In the future, you go, "Hey, remember I was talking about this? By the way, I got this. You want in?" And because they've already heard you talk about it so many times, they're like, "Oh, this guy knows what the hell he's doing." Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you want to, I don't want to change the conversation because you're crushing it. And you know what I've noticed here is that you're no, and in all honesty, Josh, you're an action taker, right? It's what it is. That's what's setting you apart from everybody else. Like even myself, I don't think I can move at the speed you're moving at because I get complacent. I get comfortable when I get to a specific point in my time or in my journey or my investing career where I'm like, well, I'm doing really good right now. Right. And I get a little bit comfortable and I kind of slow it down. Seems to me that the more you do, the harder you go at it, right? And the more you push to get better. Because I mean, dude, seriously, you're killing it right now, dude. I hear people all the time that tell us like, "Oh, how do I get started?" Like I have friends who've been talking about real estate investing since before I got into real estate investing, and they're still not even on their first deal. And I'm like, well, what have you done? Have you actually analyzed the deal? And they're like, no. Have you even looked at a deal? No. Have you even bothered talking to anybody? Have you even been to a real estate meetup? No. Well, then what are you really doing? Listening to a couple of podcasts every other month? You know what I mean? And you sat down, you literally, it's why we have the learn and apply segment at the end of every show that we do. And we'll get to that. And because you learned and you applied. Literally, it's what you've been doing. And everything, it seems that everything you pick up, you apply it in real life immediately. And it's what's kind of skyrocketing you, right? Is it a safe assumption for me to say that?
Yeah, there's no lag for me, right? When I had you guys on the podcast and it was like travel nurses, immediately, right, with Jesse on the first one, it was like, okay, how can I get into this? So I pivoted that when our short-term rental we couldn't launch it. And I was like, I remember this podcast. And Jesse told me to go on Furnish Finder or just change your booking and do this, right? Or when I even came to arbitrage and Rafa, even listening to your Bigger Pockets podcast, the funny thing is 2 weeks later, I was looking for apartments to rent. And I listened to your podcast on Bigger Pockets and we toured an apartment and just based off the conversation you said, I got the first 2 landlords I talked to say, yes, we're open to corporate housing. And I don't remember, I texted you back then. I was like, hey, Rafa, what do I do next? Would you want to do something with me? Because I don't know what to do next. And I got your number somehow. But it's just immediately applying whatever the next step is just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. And so many people talk about things and never actually do it. I would say that most of the people that I know, that's all they do is they just talk. There's people that actually take action. There's doers that actually do stuff. And there's a very small percentage of people that actually do that. And yeah, Rafa's absolutely right. Like you're taking action to what you're doing. And that's the first step. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about that all the time, massive action, massive results. Robert Kiyosaki says the same thing. You think about something, you learn about it, you educate, you pull yourself in, you start making moves. And I think that's the fundamental step to success is you educate yourself and then you just do it. And you might not even know how to do it all the way, but you just do it. And that's the way to go. And you start asking people for help. I mean, you probably didn't even know Rafa, and you're just like, hey, dude, can you help me out with this? Like, somebody's going to eventually be like, yeah, I mean, Rafa, did you help him out or no? What was going on there, man? Josh, did he diss you?
To be honest, Josh, I don't remember, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I remember you messaging me, but I honestly don't remember. And it's not because like you're not memorable or anything like that. I forget things all the time. Like, I actually just remembered that I didn't get back to someone else yesterday that I'm supposed to respond to, and I'm like, crap. So not. Hopefully, you didn't get offended that I did or did not respond. Did I respond? Please tell me I responded.
Not the first time, but I will say it doesn't actually. I mean, if you're trying to scale quickly, it's a sales game. It's 100% a sales game. And regardless if you're reaching out to property managers to arbitrage or to other investors just to pick their brains, you have to sell yourself to why they should give you time. And if you can't pitch yourself in a different way, it doesn't work. I remember like another example for me was I had someone, and at this point I had a few relationships, and I had one person say, hey, I have $50,000 I can give to you, but it's cash. And it's not really accounted for. And I was like, well, I don't know if I want to.
Wow.
What do I do? And then I remember Alex Camacho, who was also on Bigger Pockets, he all of a sudden just posted a stack of 50 grand and was like, when you make business deposits, you have to do it in under $10,000 increments. And I was like, I wonder if he would know the answer to this, but how can I actually get him to answer? So I remember just putting up my phone on Instagram DM message, and I video messaged him cold, just, hey, Alex, you posted a stack of cash. Someone just said they have 50 grand to give me, but it's not accounted for, right? Would you da 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 da? And he responded, but that's because I was different. Yes, posting a video is scary, but you have to stick out if you want any action to happen after that.
Yeah. Not only that, Josh, but if you give somebody value, if you would have reached out to Rafa and said, hey, man, you kind of did, but for a reason for them to kind of respond back, giving value to somebody. Like if I was reaching out to Rafa right now, I don't have any properties. Hey, Rafa, my brother-in-law has a place. It's really nice. It's in Orange County. I think it might be a great opportunity for you to look at. There's multiple other units. Do you have a moment for you and I to talk? Like I bet you Rafa see that. He's like, okay, cool. I have a potential to pick up another unit. And then you're bringing value to somebody that's coming in, especially somebody that's been doing stuff for a while. I can tell you right now, Josh, Rafa, myself, we get messages probably daily, and we're not even these big. We're just little tiny specks of sand in the giant beach, right? In Hawaii and Oahu, by the way, because that's where I want to be. But those messages come in. But if you bring value, everybody listening right now, bring value to somebody that you message to, whether that's something small or something big. As long as you give them something that they can take that's tangible, that they can, offer. You have some type of offering to them, they're probably going to listen to you. They're probably going to accept that message, and they're probably going to respond. So think about that when you decide to message somebody as you're learning and you're kind of moving along. What value can I bring to this person? And you might think, shit, these people have been doing this stuff forever, but it might be something simple that might bring value to them. So I highly encourage you to think about that.
I've had so many people message me about that.
Say you can't get to Jesse or Rafa because you're too big time now, right? Is if you follow their circle close enough, you'll know who's one connection away, right? And this is the sales tactic of you don't need to get to the person who's the buyer, to the CEO. You need to get to his secretary or to her secretary, right? And how well can you schmooze them and get on their calendar? Because that's ultimately who controls things. So if you can get to the person who's one step away from whoever you're trying to pick their brain, whatever it may be, that's one way. Another way is to also, a lot of people will just cold DM you out of nowhere. Hey man, can I ask you questions for 30 minutes, but have never engaged with your content ever. So instead, you can also just spend 2 weeks engaging with their posts, liking it, sharing it, commenting on it. And all of a sudden you're not a cold DM anymore. And you're someone that's like, man, this guy's actually contributed to the conversation. Yeah, I'll answer a couple of his questions.
That's a big one. Man, it's funny. Look, I got a message the other day and this guy goes, hey, I chose you to be my mentor. How can we get started? And I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm honored, but like, I have hundreds of content that you can go out and start listening to. Have you even heard any of it? Nothing. That was the message. And I'm like, okay. And then I get another message and it's like, hey, I'd love to get started in arbitrage. Would you mind if I pick your brain and we can talk about how I can get approvals with landlords? And I'm thinking to myself, like, I have like maybe 5 videos on this, like in different places, right? More than that, I have a lot of content on how to get
Yeah.
approved and what to say and how to talk to them. No, I'm not going to take an hour out of my day to go over what I already have out there for free. You know what I mean? And it sounds like a kind of rude saying it out loud, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? I value my time very carefully. I take care of my time very carefully. Even my closest friends and relatives who I've helped get started, I made it very clear to them. If you guys have any questions, I don't want to be bothered unless it's like a life and death situation for your guests, right? If your guest doesn't know how to get through the door, figure it out before you come to me. You know what I mean? And that's like my brother. Like, I get annoyed. It's like, dude, don't call me for something that you can already figure out that's out there for you to figure out, right? Now, if your guest is like, broke his foot at the door or something, then call me because I'll help you how to solve that, right? Or if your guest is getting towed, I'll help you how to solve that. But you know what I mean? You get where I'm going with this? Like, everybody listening, it's like, I'm not, don't take it as, oh yeah, Rafa's an a-hole. No, I'm not. It's just that we're all like that because we all have things going on and we can't just stop and say, hey, yeah, hold on a second. Let me take 3 hours of my day to help you get started. I've had people message me and I set up calls and I'm like, oh yeah, they're like, hey, I want to partner with you. What do I do? And then I'll take an hour, teach them what to do. And then I never hear from them ever again. And I'm like, did you really do it? Or did you just wanted to hear what I did and then disappeared on me? You know what I mean? It's like, so anyway, going on a bit of a tangent there, but it all comes back to a little bit of value add. You're absolutely correct. Like, share the videos, go out and watch the podcast, listen to the episodes, all of that stuff, right? So anyway, should we pivot a little bit? Because I want to know what you're doing over here on the marketing side of things now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to just do everything and anything. And honestly, I think what's nice is the better I get at content creation about real estate on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, the better it also helps my day job. So at the same time, it only just reinforces the things that I'm doing from my 9 to 5. But it also is very self-serving for my side projects and my own skill set. So I started a YouTube channel exactly the same time that we started our real estate journey. It was, let's post a video before we even have a deal done. And let's just document the process. And from there, let's make clips from that YouTube video that I can share on social or that would inspire, carousel posts and quotes and things like that. Since then it's been about 70 videos. I finally got monetized on YouTube. So that's exciting. I got my first channel sponsor as well, or actually a couple channel sponsors and a few different brand deals in the works. So I don't know, the influencer side of things, I'm used to being the media buyer and now being the one that's, the sold inventory is an interesting play. But it's also just helped me reach a lot of different people and add more value to, people like you guys.
So that's badass. Congratulations, because that's exciting as hell. As I just started my YouTube channel, and it's not like I'm not inspiring to get monetized, but I hope I get to that point at some level, right, or at some time and day. So how did that make you feel? And like, how's the YouTube channel actually like changing things for you, or is it doing anything at all for you?
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed everything. And this actually, I have this on
Changed stuff for me.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Jesse's commission checks for his course. I would say actually Jesse's video that we have about Travel Nurse is the most watched video on my channel. I think it's like at 14 or 15,000 views. He says that he gets hit up every single day for someone who wants to sign up for his course. I don't know, it's been crazy. And I would say in terms of what that's done for me, the ad revenue, is like pennies. It's not anything crazy. Sponsorship, I think, is where it's going to be at better for me. But I will say the one thing that it has opened up just posting more in general was, I funded our flip. I needed 200K all in because I posted so much. I was able to fund that in 24 hours, right? I was able to get a partnership for a deal that I had, I don't know, also in a couple of days. And it doesn't matter if you're not making, hundreds of thousands in ad revenue. What if you just got one partnership? And that's always the mentality I had was I just need one of anything. Private money, partners, whatever. The rest is icing on the cake.
I love that. I hope everybody listening really caught to what you just said, because it's that value that comes without like an actual exchange, right? You're now the go-to expert because you've been talking about this for everything, and it's brought so many people to you thinking, hey, I want to get started in this. Josh is an action taker. He knows what he's doing. Well, the easiest way for me to get started is call Josh and partner with Josh. And now I'm started in real estate. I have an investment going and I'm going to make some good money. And I'll take that money and reinvest it in maybe another deal with Josh, or I'll take what I learned at the deal with Josh, working with Josh in that time, and get going. So I absolutely love that, man. That's great. Congratulations, dude. That's badass.
Thank you. And I'd say to maybe contrast at one point, it doesn't make me the expert, but it does help me be more relatable to them. Which, if people can't reach out to Beardy Brandon because he's clearly the expert and one of the goats in the space now, but what are the odds of him circling back with him? But if you have your buddy that maybe you met on a meetup or you knew from high school that all of a sudden is now investing, you like, there's more possibility there immediately, and that's what it's done for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Not only that, Josh, but you have like really clean content. Like I really like what you're doing. I mean, I reached out to you. I was like, dude, I want you to do some of my stuff because I feel like what you're doing is clean. It looks professional. This is the shit you do on a daily basis already anyway. So it's like you're already involved in the space. So once you just kind of move the pendulum to a different spot and we focus on that, I mean, you have really good stuff. So everybody that's listening or watching this right now, go check out Josh. At Joshua Baldovino on also his YouTube channel, but he's got really clean stuff, man. I want to learn how you do that because I want to do that. I just don't want to spend the time actually editing anything, but I should probably learn it just to get my feet wet in it. But it's really clean stuff, man. And I like what you're doing. But not only that, you just mentioned something earlier. All it takes is one person to really find value in what you're doing, and they're going to spend the energy or the money to get involved with you. And that's what I really noticed about YouTube. And I was talking to Rafa about this offline. Is that people that watch YouTube are really trying to engage and learn, and all it takes is that one person to engage in it and be like, all right, I like Josh. He's relatable. He's from the Philippines or he lived in Hawaii. So did I. He's a nice dude. He seems genuine. He seems willing to help. He responded back to my message that I sent to him. I want to work with this guy. And like, that's literally what YouTube and Instagram and all this stuff is. I hated being on camera. Rafa, we've talked about this before. Even doing this podcast, like I hated it. I hate hearing my own freaking voice. We'll make a podcast. I don't even watch them or listen to them. I just don't want to pay attention to myself in that situation. But you have to get yourself out there in order to be heard. Those are like the three things that we need as humans: to be loved, to be heard, and to be seen, right? And if you put yourself out there in those ways and people are able to do those things, and you will, whatever you put out, you'll get back in a certain way. We talk about that with educating people for free. We're putting things out there for people to hear and listen and understand and take action. I do this because I like to enjoy it. Rafa does the same thing. Josh, same with you. And I think once you shift the perspective to, you make a couple bucks doing this and then it's not about money anymore. It's about helping somebody. That's when everything just boom, takes off. And it's not about you. It's not about the income. It's about helping somebody better themselves and to be in a better situation. So I think you're doing some really cool shit in that aspect. We all are in a way. And I don't think people talk about it enough because it is important. It's important for me to do well. Rafa and I, we talk about this in the show all the time. So yeah, Josh, look at his stuff. He's got good stuff, man. And I'm wearing your freaking shirt right now, dude. Look at this. And I'm wearing your I look like a fanboy. What did I say earlier? And you guys made fun of me. I was a Band-Aid. For those of you listening that know what a Band-Aid is, we can be best friends, okay? So I'm basically a Band-Aid to Josh right now.
I don't think anybody's gonna understand that, Jesse.
Or if you're listening and you don't know what a Band-Aid is, then you could be the cool kids like Rafa and I. So are you team Rafa and Josh, or are you team Jesse? You can let us know in the comments.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, going back to the, Jesse, you were mentioning how scary it is to start making content. Like, a lot of people will see the videos now that we're producing, but that's after, for me, 70 videos that I've posted on YouTube. If you scroll back to the very first video that I posted about real estate, like I had a full-time marketing gig. Like this is stuff that I did on the regular. I plugged my mic into the wrong camera port. So the mic audio was like it was grainy and gross, and it was hardly understandable, but I still posted it. Even though I didn't know how to frame for YouTube, I didn't know how to light for YouTube, I clearly plugged in the mic to the wrong spot, but I still sent it. And since then, I don't know how many hundreds, if not thousands of hours later, right, things are better. And then when you're thinking about, what things to post, my favorite advice when people are thinking about, oh man, how can I start, is you just answer specific questions. So whatever questions someone has ever asked you about the deal, how you found your agent, how did you pick your market, all of those questions, list them out. And now you have a 15-second video that you can post on Instagram or on TikTok, or you can combine them all, and now you have a YouTube video.
I love that. It's a great idea.
Yeah, you're right.
I committed to make YouTube videos back in October, and I finally dropped mine 3 weeks ago or something. So it took me a while because I was like, I don't know if I can sit here and record in front of this camera and stare at the camera and drop content. And I don't think anybody's going to want to listen to my nonsense anyway. And then I dropped it. And now here we are. Episode 3's out. So kind of excited about it. But yeah, I love your question idea, because I'm always trying to figure out what kind of videos I can drop on like Instagram Reels or like TikTok or something like that. And that's a great point. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm going to start doing that now. I'm going to start scripting out cool little videos on TikTok and Instagram.
Well, that's your full video.
Yeah, or a full video, correct. Absolutely. I actually sat down and I wrote a list of like a bunch of videos. I have like 150 videos, but then I'm like, these videos sound stupid. Like, I don't know if I should make these actual topics in videos. You know what I mean? I want to make like cool stuff.
Do it.
I don't know. We'll see. By the way, did you watch my last video? I'm gonna make a video about Band-Aid. Yeah, the one where I was rocking your shirt, Josh. Yeah, where I was rocking the investor. I knew you were gonna like that too.
Didn't you repost it?
Yeah, I know. I saw that. Yeah, that's right.
I threw it on the big screen. Rafa's channel is, I mean, both of your channel and the podcast that you guys are creating, super tactical. I hate it when podcasts and people are just maybe more fluff and mindset than tactical advice. And that's something that I try and do for my own content, is just do this, period. And that's also, I mean, I don't know, maybe just, I don't want to spend 20 minutes of my day adjusting my headspace. It's just, if you just do this, this happens. If not, keep trying or change it up.
Here's what I've done. Replicate it, right? Just me listening to you with 12 units already in a year and a half, dude, like, it's crazy to think about. Like, it really is, because just that one is so intimidating. And once you get that one, it snowballs. You know, once you see cash flow coming in, your mind shifts. And then, like, dude, Rafa and I talked about, and I think you have a video on this too, where meetups are intimidating. Like, that's where you met your partner is as a meetup. Like, I was the dude that always be in the corner, you know, watching everybody do stuff and be like, oh, nobody wants to listen to me. I'm just like, I'm not really important here. I don't have 12 units like Josh or like this other guy or whoever the speaker is. Like, they're not going to care. But it's all about networking. It's all about connecting with people. So let's talk about that, dude. How meetups, and you have your own meetups now in the Bay. You have your meetups all over the place. How they've shifted. And I've been to your meetups. They're really clean, especially the last one was really, really nice. Rafa was his guest speaker there. He looked all cool and stuff, speaking on stage. So congrats to you, Rafa.
There's a funny story for me about meetups. Is I actually hosted my first meetup before I've ever even went to a real estate meetup before. So
really,
if you think about
That's
the timeline,
funny.
so I started last January, right? Is when we closed on our first deal. I hosted my first one. I think it was maybe April or something like that, or March. So 3 months later, I just had a couple deals under my belt, and I've never been to a real estate meetup ever. So I had no idea what to expect. But for me, I also had zero expectation. I knew that there was a small group that I've been talking to on Instagram, and I said, hey, let's just meet up at a bar and have some drinks and talk about real estate. And that was it. Like, the bar was set so low. I did partner with two of the operators to help kind of push and promote the event. For whatever reason, I don't know, this was just COVID timing and people finally starting to come out of their shell. But we had like 60 people show up to the event, and it just was like, it was madness. We took over the bar. They didn't have enough staff. I felt really bad. And then that's actually where I met Ash. Cal right now, you know, the business partner that I've closed the last, 4 or 5 deals with, was at that meetup. But I had zero expectations. And I think if you're going to start and or attend something, you just go there and you have zero expectations, but you just look for the easiest low hanging fruit, which is either making introductions to somebody else. Hey, you do short-term rentals, you need to talk to this person. You want to invest in Columbus, so does this person. And if you're just that link for as many different people as possible, everything else comes back to you. Yeah. You don't even have to do any deals. You just have to just introduce people to another person. And all of a sudden they'll love you forever. So whoever's listening who's scared to go to a meetup, if you can just say, John, here's Stacy. And you're done.
It's true.
I like how you hit your mic on that. It was like perfect punchline.
Saving your VA from adding the sound effects.
But yeah, you're right. So you're right, dude. So if you do go to meetup and you want to just sit in the corner and absorb every single conversation, then go and say, I know that guy over there is investing in Salt Lake City, and so is that guy with the red hat on. So I mean, like, literally, that's all you got to do. I mean, that's where it starts, and they're intimidating, dude. Like, we've talked about this before. It's not fun to be able to, like, I'm an introvert by nature, and a lot of people are introverts by nature. So just having those conversations, it's scary. Just to go out to meet with other people, it's scary. You know what I mean? So you just got to get out there.
Yeah, and I'd say if you are scared, don't be afraid to break up and end the conversation. A lot of people don't know how to exit the conversation, and you can tell you're at a meetup and they're just like, trying to like keep the conversation going, but it's naturally dying. Like if you've already said that this person, you got their contact, whatever it may be, you can follow up with them later. Just say, hey, well, I'm going to go meet somebody else. It was really nice meeting you. And it's okay to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big one, man. I see it all the time. Even when I first started, I was like, even when I have my meetups, people will come up and it's like they're just ranting on for like 45 minutes and there's a line of people behind them. And I'm like, hey guys, like, it's a pleasure to meet you. Like, I literally, sorry, pleasure to meet you. But, got to share the time here with everybody else. You're here to meet people, not to have one conversation with one person the entire time. So don't be shy about that. It's true. Everybody should understand that that's what meetups are about, right? Meeting people. You know what I mean? Going and having different people. And every time I go to a meetup, it's like I have to share my time with everybody else because I want to learn as much as I can from everybody else. And the only way you're going to do it is by going and talking to different people, not staying stuck in one conversation when it's, like you said, Josh, dying out or becoming uncomfortable or awkward at that point, trying to figure out what's the next thing to say,
Mm-hmm.
So
You've heard of this before, right? Stage 5 clinger. All right. So there you go. I finally have something that I resonate with you guys with. There we go. I'm not
the
that
needy
old.
significant other who won't stop texting or calling you nonstop.
Well, that's what we're going to say with that real estate meetups when somebody would just like stand.
is that another analogy for your Band-Aid, Jesse? Is that the Band-Aid? Is that what that is?
Don't worry, Jesse. I'll send you a hat, man. Don't worry. We'll send you a hat.
There you go.
I'll send it, man. I'll take that. As long as it's a dad hat, I'll take it, bro. I'll take it. So yeah, man. So Josh, you're doing so much stuff. Like, so tell us what you're working on right now. Like, what do you have going on at the moment? Like, what's your portfolio looking like? I know that you're getting into short-term rentals now. You have one in Joshua Tree. So what's the portfolio looking like now? How is your relationship with Ash going, and how are you continuing to kind of mold and maneuver into the direction with media marketing? And this is a lot of stuff to answer, but I'll give you the floor to go ahead and go through that.
Yeah. So on the real estate side, we're stabilizing the last 2 short-term rentals, and a couple of the long-term rentals actually have some active tenant turns. But that, I guess what's nice on that sense is because I'm so diversified, when there is a tenant turn, the other properties kind of just start paying for the other properties, which is crazy to say a year later. But I mean, that happens when you get to a certain point. In terms of what we're looking for on the real estate side in our business partnerships, is we are looking for something bigger. I think like everybody is, whether they're moving into multi, self-storage, hotel, motels. And I think that's actually an active space that we're looking at now as well as, short-term rentals is the way to get a cash flow number quicker and also still have the upside for commercial multifamily. So now you're getting the equity gain of commercial multifamily on a kind of fixer-upper hotel, but the cash flow of a short-term rental, it's best of both worlds on a multiplier factor. And so there is a couple of other operators that we're going to partner with together to try and take down something bigger. We may submit an LOI for this one deal that we have. We've been looking at and talking to the seller directly down in the West Coast. I'll leave it there. He says we can verbally have it if it's ours, but I'm just doing some last due diligence in terms of comps before we actually submit. So
This is on a large multifamily?
This is a hotel. It's a hotel in a vacation rental market. This one actually is already flipped and ready to go. I'm buying it from another hotel flipper, basically, but who just doesn't want to operate it. So we would do no staff on site, keyless entry. There's already Schlag locks installed.
Is it underperforming then? What's going on there?
Well, it's not performing. It's not even active right now. It was underperforming. It was this ugly 1960s hotel that's never been updated. And we're actually only getting consideration for the deal because the designer who did our Joshua Tree Airbnb designed the hotel. And then I randomly posted about it on Instagram. And I was like, hey, who has a lender for a hotel? And then she immediately DM'd me back and was like, that's my project. And then I called the broker before. We had a quick conversation and he kind of, gave you the, you guys are kind of small fish. I don't know. And then my designer ended up calling the broker saying, that's my client. Broker called me and then said, you want to get this deal done? Let's just get this done. So now we're in that final stages. It's 10, but we're only getting consideration again because of the relationships and because they posted on Instagram. So
badass. Congrats.
Well, not yet. Not yet.
Congrats on, getting to that point. Yeah.
So, but that's what we're working on now in that sense. And on the marketing side, for me is Yeah, if I can help more people interested in real estate, just help their own personal brands, help their own corporate brands, just get more leads into their funnel and be able to make more. I feel like once you start making content, it's really freeing too. Like you're at a certain place where you can remove all the judgment, all the whatever you're thinking about. If people, are they like, does my high school friend gonna judge me for this post that I put? But the moment you can just post and not care what anybody thinks, I mean, you guys know the feeling. It's like,
That's freedom.
yeah, it's the emotional freedom. You can say what you want and it's all good.
Yeah, I get friends sometimes from back in the day will call me trying to make fun of me, and I just laugh it off. Haha, yeah, cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the keyboard warriors.
Like, Rafa, you're a influencer. You're an Instagram influencer.
You know what's
now,
funny is
huh?
anybody who's out there
dude.
talking crap and trying to judge, low key, they kind of want to do it themselves. You know what I mean? It's
Oh.
like they just post up a video, whatever.
Yeah.
To me, it's fun. I like helping people. I like talking about this stuff. The podcast was for us to have fun, me and Jesse to have fun and do it. I told Jesse, if this becomes
Yeah.
a job, I'm out. I quit 100%. I don't do anything that becomes a job. If I don't enjoy it, I don't do it. I don't care what it is. Honestly, I don't care what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so this has been really fun for me. It's something that I enjoy doing. I like getting up and saying, "Oh, we got a recording today. Yes, let's do it." Right? Because we have good, cool conversations. Like these are awesome conversations to have. It's like having our meetup once a week with someone new. You know what I mean? And I love everything about it. Getting to meet the way people do things, what they have going on, how they're working deals. You know what's happened, how they got to where they got, like their entire mindset behind things, like the way they look at specific things, like all of that to me fascinates me because it's how you learn to become kind of better at what you're trying to get to. Right? I wouldn't be where I'm at had I not started making relationships and building things that I've been building with other people. And it started with literally a couple posts on Instagram. When I first started, it was just me ranting. Now it's like intentional posts, right? Now I'm starting to get really intentional about the stuff that I put out there because a lot of people are starting to pay attention, and I don't want to be giving nonsense or leading people in the wrong direction as well. But yeah, man, who cares what people think? Go out and post your stuff. At the end of the day, if they fall off because they're hating on you, they're going to fall off anyway. And the people that like your content are going to be the ones who are going to share you, and it's going to grow you, right? And you're going to grow and become a different person along the way anyway.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And that's why, I would encourage people as I start posting, people are like, do I stop posting my family? Do I stop posting what I'm eating? Do I stop posting my vacation? And just post whatever the hell you want to post because people will follow you for you. And if they don't like who you are, then should you even want them to follow you in the first place? So
yeah, you got to stay true to who you are. Yeah, for sure. You can't be posting a different person and then they meet you and you're just someone completely different, right? Everybody who meets me, I'm the exact same person in person, on social media, and on the pod. Like I'm the exact same dude. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like the worst thing is somebody hears who you are, Josh, right? And they're like, "Oh man, I love Josh," and then they meet you and you're just like, "Well, that sucked." You know what I mean? That's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah. One of the cool things about podcasts and even YouTube stuff is, and you guys have probably all done this before. So like that's how people became relatable back in the FM AM days. People would get in the car, they would drive from point A to point B, and they would listen to the morning DJ talking about what they had going on and stuff like that. And you become almost familiar, like them in a way. And that's what happens with podcasts and with YouTube. Like that's another way to grab information from somebody. And when you meet that person, you're on their podcast, like you listen to them weekly. So you almost feel like you know them. And that's where that relatable part comes in. Like Rafa, you and I, Josh, like we have we talk just like this is how we talk when we're off. When we flip this camera off, we're going to talk this exact same way right now. So it's like people get a chance to like literally become closer to somebody just by listening. That old school age of you're just listening and understanding, and you feel like that person when you go to a meetup and you meet them there. You're just kind of like, holy crap, I listened to you like weekly, like you're part of my family already. You're listening to what they have going on. So I think that's really cool in that aspect. And that's something that, I don't think people really think about. I come from the sales and marketing side. So like my brain is like, these people get to hear us regularly. So they're becoming part of our group without even really thinking about it in those sense. And that's where you're able to really learn about people. But then also those same people are going to want to go to your classes or go to your meetups or go to your masterminds or because they already have a sense of knowing you already. And I think that, with podcasts and YouTube, posting yourself, those are excellent ways for people to figure out who you are, what you're about, what you do, and what your intentions are behind whatever it is you have going on. So yeah, dude, that's cool.
I know we're, coming to the end of the time, but, just to kind of piggyback on what can happen if you do podcasts, if you do start a YouTube, if you start any type of medium that people can consume. Like, for example, on YouTube, in the last year now that it's taken a year, but now that I've started to pick up a little bit more traction, I think I have over, I don't know, almost 7,000 watch hours or something like that. Right? If you really break that down, how many years is that that people in the world have listened to me blabber about things, when how long would that take me to have that many different individual conversations, right? And so on the sales side, to build that know, like, and trust, like, it's exponential just because you published it somewhere that people can consume. And then if you're thinking about, okay, well, hey, how can I be, Joe Schmo, 0 deals? How can I get started? Is all you have to do is interview a person who's either on the same stage as you or one step ahead. You don't have to get the guy who's, spoken on the big stages to then be your podcast guest. If you just get Sally that you met at the last meetup or that you saw on Instagram and just say, hey, I want to pick your brains, but can I record it? And then also just send you the recording to the post on your Facebook. Like, that's an extra value add you can give to a peer that they'll enjoy, even if it's a written blog post, if it's audio only, or if it's video, it doesn't matter. It's something that's different that they don't already have. And people are honestly, flattered when you invite them to be a guest on your podcast. It means a lot to them. So when you're just getting started out, like, that is the easiest thing you can do, especially if you just want to have more of these conversations.
That was great advice. Yeah, it's funny. So normally me and Jesse, we have signals where we're so that we don't talk over each other. And today we're just like slapping each other up with conversations, which is funny because it goes back to the same thing, right? It's just, this is the way we are. We're all trying to ask questions. And anyway, before I go back into that whole, let's be real who we are, people. Josh, we're getting to the end of the hour. So let's just ask the question we ask everybody, being that this is the Big Break Show.
Mm-hmm.
You got to tell us, man, what was your big break in life? Financially, professionally, artistically, mindset-wise, whatever it was. What was your big break that got you from point A to point B to be the person you are today?
One big break is really hard. I'd say maybe this is, for a different conversation. And I guess you have to maybe subscribe to my channel to get the full story. But there are so many, like, I opened a CrossFit gym here in Milpitas 6 years ago. That failed. I started a clothing company and it did pretty decent, but it wasn't enough to, sustain me full time. So that failed, right? And all of these different other businesses that I tried to start all failed, but those incremental breaks are what opened a different door. And now all of a sudden, this is just a real estate door that's opened. So I take each of those as a nice opportunity to move forward onto the next one.
I love it.
That's a good one. Yeah, nobody's said anything like that yet. But yeah, failures are little tiny windows into what not to do for the next business, and they're little things that you can take and move forward. And obviously, don't apply those. So, yeah, Josh, that was a good answer. I like that one. So also, you've listened to this show. I'm wearing your investor, so I hope you've listened to this show. One of our other segments is learn and apply. Like, so something that we talked about today, an actionable step that somebody can do after listening to this episode. Can you tell us about that?
My challenge to anyone is always just post something, and it goes back to answer a specific question. So how did you find your first deal? How did you fund your first deal? How did you pick your market? How did you find your business partner? Write down 5 questions, and it doesn't have to be a video. You can just type out literally on your notepad on your phone, screenshot that. That's your Instagram, Facebook post, whatever it may be. If you're so inclined to make a video, then do that too. But that's the next action step is once you do 5 and write down 5 questions and then answer them and no matter what, post it. And that's it. And just see what happens. Maybe it'll start something. Maybe it won't. But you should try something different.
I love that. 100%. For sure. You know why I like it so much? It's because everybody's always afraid to do this stuff. It's really what it is. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm afraid to do this stuff. Even now, you just gave me a great idea for the next video, by the way, which I'm gonna record after this. But it's like everybody's always afraid to do something outside of their ordinary. I make it a point, and I fall off of this all the time, but I make it a point to do something new every single day that I've never done before, or at least try one thing that I've never tried in the past, whether it's food, whether it's have a conversation, whether it's make a phone call. Whatever it is, wear something new, get out of my comfort zone. One thing every single day to get out of that. Otherwise, what the hell? What are we living for? We're just stuck in the same lane, doing the same thing. We're not robots. You know what I mean? So, Josh, I absolutely love that, man. Honestly, like I sat there thinking about it. I was like, dude, it's great. So Absolutely. Thank you. Josh, thank you so much for being here, man. I want to be respectful of your time. So before we get off, tell everybody, YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, give them all so that they can follow you, talk to you, ask you questions, reach out, the works.
Yeah, the username is simple. It's my full name, Josh Uwa _Baldovino, and that's the same everywhere on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook is Joshua _Baldovino. You can call me Josh, though. I like to make it more confusing in that sense. But if you're looking for that Zillow scraper, or you even just want to reach out and talk content, definitely feel free to hit me up in the DMs and answer or ask a specific question. And I'm happy to answer it. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man. Well, there it is, folks. Josh, living in Hawaii, came to the States, started a CrossFit gym. Now here he is, 12 doors right away, and he still doesn't understand what the what was that? The Band-Aid? He doesn't know what a
Nobody
Band-Aid
knows
is.
what a
It's
Band-Aid
cool,
is.
though. But Josh, if you've watched the movie Almost Famous, you have. You definitely have. So watch that movie. You'll get some insight. It's a 70s movie. It's freaking fantastic. Watch it. Josh, you're awesome. Follow this dude. Share and like this page. If you guys know what a Band-Aid is, please write it in the comments because we're going to be best friends. And I appreciate everybody for listening to this. Rafa, any final words for you, my friend?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for listening. Jesse, the old man with the 70s analogies, we're out. See you guys.
See you guys. Thanks.